I've forgiven many times. But this time, it was a betrayal by purpose. William never said it out loud. He signed the order and stayed silent. But deep down, he knew that was the moment he let go of the brother who had once grown up beside him. Charles didn't cry. He had no tears left to shed. He simply chose silence because speaking even once might unravel the authority he had fought so hard to preserve. And Harry, a letter, just a few lines, was the final blow that shattered the last hope he held for his family. They didn't just strip away a title. They erased the memory of something once called kinship, the monarchy, now split in two by those bound by the same blood. And the question is no longer who's right or wrong, but whether Harry will rise one last time or surrender to the cost of defying the crown. Deep in the Emerald Hills of Scotland, Balmoral Castle stands as more than a royal summer retreat. It's a fortress where history-changing decisions are forged in secrecy. In early June, as soft sunlight filtered through ancient stained glass windows, a small isolated room within the castle became the crucible for a brewing storm. No glittering royal crests adorned the walls. No ceremonial pomp filled the air, just a scarred mahogany table dusted with time and four figures bearing the weight of a dynasty's fate. King Charles III, fresh from his battle with cancer, carried the gravitas of a monarch unbroken. Yet beneath his tailored gray wool coat, his frailty was undeniable. Trembling hands, a face etched with deep lines. His eyes, heavy with sorrow, seemed to gaze beyond the room, lost in memories of a family once whole. Across from him, Prince William sat rigid as a blade, his piercing gaze and tightly pressed lips masking a fury that had simmered for years. Princess Anne, ever pragmatic and unyielding, sat with arms crossed, her sharp eyes glinting like a warrior ready for battle. Beside them, a middle-aged legal advisor with silver-rimmed glasses placed a thin stack of documents on the table, each page a ticking time bomb. No one wanted to name the issue, but it loomed inescapable: Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's lavish Colombia tour. Intelligence reports funneled from MI5 and the Home Office painted a damning picture. The couple, who stepped back from royal duties in 2020 to chase freedom, had orchestrated a trip with the grandeur of a state visit. A Gulfstream G650 private jet, a 3,000-strong security detail, meticulously choreographed ceremonies by international experts, and a global media blitz all bore the hallmarks of royalty, despite their public break from the monarchy. But one detail set the room ablaze. An estimated $7 million of the tour's cost was allegedly drawn from the royal security budget funded by British taxpayers. William, unable to contain himself, slammed his fist on the table, sending a crystal glass trembling. "They're building their own empire under our name," he growled, each word a sharp blade. "They're draining the monarchy's resources, using royal titles to polish their image, while the British public foots the bill. If we don't act now, this institution will crumble from within, and history will judge us all." A deadly silence fell, broken only by the crackle of logs in the fireplace. Anne nodded, her steel-like gaze unwavering, as if to echo William's rage, but choosing silence to let it resonate. Charles' statue still stared at his clasped hands, his gaunt fingers gripping each other, as if clinging to something long lost. His face betrayed no emotion, but his eyes, deep, burdened with grief, revealed a father's torment. He had known of Harry's actions for months, each report a fresh wound. Finally, Charles signaled the legal advisor to speak. The man cleared his throat, his voice steady, yet weighted like a judge delivering a verdict. Stripping a prince's title is unprecedented in modern royal history. He began sliding the documents toward Charles. However, British law does not prohibit it. With sufficient cause, such as actions gravely damaging the monarchy's honor and parliamentary approval, it is entirely feasible. But, he paused, locking eyes with Charles, "Your Majesty, this move would spark an unprecedented media firestorm. The public will be divided, and the monarchy risks losing significant support." Anne, unable to stay silent, cut in with icy precision. "This isn't just about money, it's about honor. If we let Harry act as if he's still a royal representative, the public will lose faith. The monarchy isn't a brand for anyone to exploit." She struck the table, her eyes blazing. "We've let this drag on too long. It's time to end it." Charles remained silent, his hands slowly turning the document's pages, though his eyes barely focused. Inside, a war-raged love for Harry, the youngest son who once brought solace after Diana's death, clashed with his duty to protect the crown, a legacy he'd sworn to preserve until his final breath. Memories of Harry, the boy who held his hand during Balmoral hunts, flickered vividly, only to be overshadowed by headlines of Harry and Meghan defying the monarchy's values. At last he looked up, his voice hoarse, each word dragged from the depths of his heart. "We will consider all options," he said, his gaze sweeping the room, "but inaction is not an option." Those words, though soft, landed like a decree. The room grew stifling, as if the air had been sucked out. William clenched his fists, his eyes burning with resolve but tinged with pain. He knew this decision wasn't just about the monarchy, but about a family, a brotherhood, shattered long ago. Anne nodded, her face resolute, yet a faint unease stirred within her. Could the monarchy weather this storm without destroying itself? The question hung in the air, a prophecy of what was to come. Balmoral, silent witness to countless crises, now marked the start of a covert war between honor and rebellion, tradition and freedom, crown and kin. Under Cartagena's blazing tropical sun, Colombia's ancient port city awoke as if cast in a global drama. Cobblestone streets gleamed, pastel walls pulsed with salsa rhythms, but all eyes fixed on the Tambori de Cabildo Conservatory, a pristine white building with fiery red tiles where Prince Harry and Meghan Markle claimed the world stage. They descended the steps hand in hand, their radiant smiles a bold challenge to their doubters. Harry, in a tailored navy suit, exuded a prince's elegance despite renouncing that role. Meghan, in a flowing white silk dress, her hair loose and eyes sharp, captivated like a Hollywood star on the red carpet. Before them, a sea of cameras, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, jostled to capture every moment. Around them, a colossal security force locked down the city. Over 3,000 armed police lined the streets. Armored vehicles lurked behind palm trees. Snipers perched on rooftops and helicopters roared overhead. This scale, rivaling a head of state visit, was no accident. It was a calculated move by Harry and Meghan to cement their status as an independent royal duo on the global stage. The Colombia tour, announced mere weeks earlier, was more than charity, it was a manifesto. Backed by a top-tier Los Angeles PR team, Harry and Meghan turned every event into a polished spectacle. Morning saw them at an education workshop in the conservatory, where Meghan's steely speech on knowledge access and Harry's emotional childhood anecdotes left the room teary-eyed. Afternoon brought a visit to an indigenous cultural center, where Harry, with a warm smile, drummed alongside local artists, while Meghan, ever the producer, filmed for an upcoming documentary. Every step, every gesture was recorded, edited, and blasted across social media with hashtags like #OneCharge Sussex Global, a new brand untethered from Buckingham. Behind the glamour lay a bolder ambition. Meghan, with her Hollywood savvy, crafted a flawless narrative. They weren't just philanthropists, but icons of progress breaking boundaries. Pre-planted articles in Vogue and the New York Times hailed them as pioneers of a new era, daring to defy an outdated institution. A viral Instagram video of Meghan embracing an indigenous girl in traditional garb racked up millions of views, with comments gushing, "This is the royalty the world needs, and Harry and Meghan are doing what Buckingham never dared." Harry, though quieter, was no less driven. In private moments, cameras off, he met advisors in their hotel suite, plotting long-term Latin American charity projects. "We need to build a legacy," he said, his voice low but fervent, "not to prove them wrong, but to prove it to ourselves." Meghan, beside him, nodded, her eyes alight. She knew this tour was more than image building. It was a declaration that they didn't need a crown to change the world. But the tour's extravagance didn't escape critics. At a government-hosted gala, Harry and Meghan were feted like heads of state with lobster and fine wine, while their security, reportedly provided by a U.S. firm, but coordinated locally balloon costs. A leaked photo of Meghan in a crystal-encrusted gown beside Harry in a tuxedo sparked online vitriol in Britain. They left royalty for a normal life. This is normal, and who's paying for this party? British taxpayers. Meghan, ever astute, sensed the danger. In a late-night meeting with her PR team, she demanded more charity-focused posts to drown out the backlash. "They want to paint us as villains," she said, her voice icy. "We won't give them the chance." Harry, exhausted from the day, rested a hand on her shoulder, his eyes brimming with trust. "We're doing the right thing, Meg," he said. "No matter what they say, we keep going." Back in Britain, the public's fury erupted. A leaked internal report to the Telegraph revealed $2.7 million of the tour's security costs came from the royal budget due to a legal loophole from 2020. The news was a match to kindling, with headlines screaming, "Harry still takes Dad's money for private tours." Tabloids like The Sun and Daily Mail branded it blatant betrayal and the con of the century. On X, thousands demanded the monarchy cut Harry off, while others accused him of stealing and shouting. At Clarence House, King Charles III sat alone in his study, the dim glow of a desk lamp illuminating his weary face. Before him lay the Telegraph's article, its red headline glaring like blood. He skimmed it, folded it shut, his hands trembling. Beside him, William stood at a window staring into London's grey sky. "We can't let this go on," he said, his voice low but resolute. "If Harry wants to live like a prince, he must answer like one." Charles said nothing, but his eyes, deep and pained, betrayed a decision taking shape, one that would alter the monarchy forever. 2 days after the clandestine Balmoral meeting, a letter bearing the golden seal of the Prince of Wales left Clarence House. Sent through diplomatic channels with utmost secrecy, it traveled thousands of miles from London to Bogotá, landing in the hands of a tense British embassy staffer in Colombia. With a grim expression, he delivered it to the opulent seaside hotel, where Harry and Meghan were staying, a dazzling structure where tropical sunlight streamed through towering glass. Written on exquisite paper embossed with the royal crest, the letter's contents were as cold and sharp as a blade honed over centuries. William's handwriting, firm and precise, read like a general's battle orders. "As of the 1st of next month, any use of royal titles by Henry of Sussex will be deemed a violation of royal honor without written palace approval. This decision is irrevocable, barring significant changes in behavior and duty to the monarchy." But at the letter's end, a handwritten note, its ink slightly trembling, as if penned in a rare moment of hesitation, gave it a raw humanity no crest could match. "You can choose your path, but the monarchy must protect its institution." Harry received the letter on a bright Colombian morning, sunlight flooding his hotel suite, casting shadows on his haggard face, eyes shadowed from sleepless nights. He sank into a velvet armchair, clutching the envelope, his thumb tracing his brother's seal. He opened it, reading each line, each word, searching for a crack, a hint. This was a misunderstanding. But every sentence cut deeper, tearing through memories of when he and William were allies, brothers, unbreakable. Meghan, returning from a charity event meeting, sensed the shift instantly. Harry's face, usually lit with defiant optimism, was a shattered canvas. She approached gently, taking the letter, her eyes scanning it with the speed of someone versed in crises. At the final line, her expression shifted from shock to fury, her lips tight, her eyes blazing. "They're trying to erase who you are," she said, her voice trembling with anger and a buried pain. She strode to a desk, opened a safe with a code, and pulled out a black USB drive. "We have proof, Harry. The 2020 video of your father signing the agreement to let you keep your titles for lineage honor. We can release it, show the world they're breaking their own promises." She held the USB aloft, a weapon in an unforgiving war. But Harry shook his head, his gaze vacant, as if the letter had drained his soul. "I don't fight like that," he said, his voice hoarse, each word forced from an aching chest. "I don't need to win, Meghan. I just need the truth on my side." Meghan stared at him, her eyes flashing with frustration and helplessness, as if facing an impenetrable wall. She knew Harry was torn between pride and the agony of losing his family, a family he'd once naively hoped would forgive his path. She set the USB down, stepped closer, and placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to lend strength. But Harry gently lifted her hand away, stood and whispered, "I need time." He walked to the balcony, leaving Meghan alone with the fateful letter. Under Cartagena's blinding sun, Harry stood still, clutching the letter, his gaze lost in the bustling crowds below. Their laughter, chatter, and vibrant life felt like another world, one without crowns, ultimatums, or invisible walls rising between him and his past. He remembered childhood days racing William across Kensington's green lawns, when brotherhood was his only certainty. Now the letter in his hand drew a final line, severing him from those memories, his family, perhaps himself. On the balcony, a sea breeze carried salt and fleeting coolness, but it couldn't calm the storm within. Harry gripped the letter as if to crush it, then let it slip, watching it fall to the marble floor. He didn't know that in London, William stood at a Clarence House window, staring into a gray sky, wondering if he'd done right by writing that letter, or if he'd lost his only brother forever. Harry didn't reply to William's letter. His silence wasn't surrender, but a painful void, as if he were grasping for an escape from the emotional tempest drowning him. The letter followed him from Bogota to Montecito, where he and Meghan returned after the Colombia tour carrying a heavy air like storm clouds. Their luxurious California seaside mansion, once a safe haven, now seemed haunted by the letter's shadow. Upon arriving, Harry summoned his private legal team, a crack squad that had battled British tabloids. In a sealed meeting room with glass walls overlooking the Pacific, he sat at the head of the table, William's letter before him, like a gauntlet. He met his advisor's eyes, his own resolute yet weary, and asked bluntly, "If they strip my titles for good, what can we do?" The team's leader, Sir Edward Langley, a seasoned London lawyer, adjusted his glasses and spoke cautiously, as if navigating a minefield. "You could challenge it in court, citing personal freedom and identity rights," he said, his tone steady but tinged with concern. "We could argue that stripping your titles is discriminatory or breaches prior royal commitments. But," he paused, meeting Harry's gaze, "be warned, sir, such a case could drag on for years, cost millions, and severely damage your public image. The British public currently leans toward the monarchy. A legal battle would be seen as hostility against the crown, perhaps against the very institution you were once part of." Harry nodded, but his eyes suggested he wasn't fully listening. He turned to the window, watching waves crash, their silver glinting in California's sun. After a pause, he spoke, his voice low but firm. "I'm not fighting for titles. I'm fighting for the life we chose, for me, for Meghan, for our family." His words silenced the room. The advisors exchanged glances, none daring to speak. They realized Harry wasn't just talking law. He was waging a personal battle to defend the path he and Meghan had forged, despite royal pressure and public scorn. Sir Edward spoke softly. "We'll prepare options, sir. But please consider this path won't be easy, and the cost may be steeper than you imagine." Meanwhile, global media became a polarized arena. American outlets like the New York Times and People slammed the monarchy with headlines like "Royals Punish Harry for Living True" and "William and Charles Old Guard versus Freedom." They lauded Harry and Meghan as trailblazers, warriors against an archaic system. Vanity Fair and Vogue dubbed Meghan a queen without a throne, and Harry a people's prince, rewriting royal rules by following their hearts. But in Britain, the narrative flipped. The Times, the Daily Telegraph, and the Spectator backed William, calling his move essential to protect the monarchy's credibility. Editorials argued Harry's use of titles and royal resources for private ventures was unacceptable abuse. On social media, Renmarch justice for Harry clashed with Ali Arnaz to defend the crown, turning the saga into a global opinion war. In Montecito, Harry couldn't sleep. Late nights found him alone in his study, his face lit by a laptop's glow, now more drawn than ever. Before him sat an old photo of his mother, Princess Diana, smiling with him and William at a Highgrove picnic. Memories of her hugs, her words that "you don't need a crown to be good" were his only solace. But they also reminded him painfully of what he'd lost, not just family, but the part of himself that believed the monarchy could evolve, that kinship could overcome all. Meghan, seeing Harry's unraveling, stepped back from the spotlight. She canceled social media posts, declined an Oprah interview, and shelved PR plans to focus on him. One night, finding him sitting in darkness, lit only by moonlight, she approached and hugged him tightly, as if to anchor him. "We'll get through this, Harry," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. "No matter what they do, they can't take who you are." Harry didn't reply, but he gripped her hand, his fingers tight, as if it were his last lifeline. He met her eyes, and for a moment a faint spark of hope flickered, not to defeat the monarchy, but to protect what he and Meghan had built. Storms be damned. Later in the night's stillness, Harry opened his journal, a worn leather book from his teenage years. Under a desk lamp's dim glow, he wrote, his hand trembling but determined, "If I lose my titles, I'm just a shadow. But if I beg them to keep it, I lost myself long ago." In London, the marble corridors of Parliament buzzed with the tension of an impending political clash. Crystal chandeliers cast light on ancient oak walls, but nothing could dispel the unease. Loyalist MPs led by Sir Reginald Hawthorne, a veteran politician with a razor-sharp gaze and a thunderous voice, tabled a shocking motion in the House of Commons. Its neutral but pointed language demanded a review of the misuse of royal titles inconsistent with public duty, a thinly veiled jab at Harry. Presented as a defense of the monarchy, it was a chilling warning act, or Parliament will not relent. A closed-door hearing convened in Room 12, a small but stately chamber, with crimson curtains blocking prying eyes. Attendees weren't ordinary MPs, but an elite group: top legal experts, Home Office officials, and two stone-faced royal advisors. Questions flew like arrows. Did Prince Harry break the law by using his titles for unapproved activities? One MP demanded, voice cold. The Colombia tour's security costs, were they illegally drawn from public funds? Another pressed, flipping through a leaked Home Office report. Sir Hawthorne's question landed heaviest: must the monarchy reform to prevent future cases? Or are we witnessing the collapse of an outdated institution? The British press, smelling blood, pounced. Tabloids like The Sun and Daily Mail screamed, "Harry plunges monarchy into chaos and will Parliament end the rebel prince's titles." Some radical MPs even floated stripping Harry's royal status, an idea swiftly dismissed for lacking legal ground, but potent enough to ignite online furor. YouGov polls released post-hearing drove the final nail. 62% of Britons favored stripping Harry's titles, with only 18% opposed. The numbers were a stark reminder the monarchy had no time to waver. While London boiled, King Charles III secluded himself in Clarence House, citing health to dodge public statements. His study, with its ancient bookshelves and crackling hearth, became his final bastion. He communicated via handwritten letters, his script shaky on royal-crested paper. One sent to William was brief but laden with emotion. "I know you're trying to do right, but remember, you're not just the throne's guardian. You're his brother." William received it on a rainy morning, London's sky as bleak as his mood. Alone in Clarence House's library, he read in silence, his eyes lingering on the final line. For a moment, his chest tightened, as if his heart were gripped by an unseen hand. He folded the letter, tucked it into a drawer, and didn't reply. At the window, watching rain streak the glass, each drop recalled days when he and Harry were inseparable. He knew he was doing what the monarchy demanded, the legacy his father and one day he must uphold. But why did his heart ache? In a rare unseen moment, William wondered, could he save his brother, or was it too late? The question lingered unanswered as Parliament raged and Britain awaited the monarchy's verdict. The pressure was no longer internal. It was a national crisis, a test of the monarchy's survival. A week after Parliament's hearing, as Britain seethed with endless debate, Buckingham Palace issued a statement crafted with the cold precision of a death sentence. Sent to major news outlets and posted on the royal website, it was brief but lethal. The titles, His Royal Highness in Prince of Henry of Sussex, will no longer be used in any diplomatic, public, or official representative capacity, effective immediately. This decision is made to safeguard the honor and integrity of the monarchy. No lengthy explanations, no apologies or consolations. The statement didn't fully strip Harry's royal status, but froze his honor, a devastating blow to his identity, reducing him from a recognized prince to a restricted name barred from using royal crests or symbols. It wasn't just administrative, it declared Harry had crossed an unforgivable line. A shocking detail leaked from an insider and swiftly spread, stunned the world. King Charles III had signed the decree 5 days earlier, alone at Clarence House, but chose not to warn Harry, despite private channels. To many, this wasn't just political, it was personal. A father choosing crown over son. In Montecito, Harry received the news via a 6 a.m. email from the palace's legal team, titled simply, "Official Notification from Buckingham Palace." Its curt message was brutal. No royal crests on digital platforms, charity events, or public activities. His patronages must erase title references. Even his and Meghan's social media must drop Sussex Royal. Harry sat on a leather sofa in their living room, staring at the laptop, its pale glow on his motionless face. His eyes, red and vacant, held no fight. Meghan, up after a late work night, entered and sensed the shift. Standing behind him, she read over his shoulder, each line hammering her heart. Her hand gripped his shoulder, fingers tight, but she said nothing. Silence blanketed the room, broken only by distant waves through an open window. Finally, Meghan spoke, her voice calm but icy, as if suppressing long-held rage. "So they've chosen," she said, staring into space. "They want us to break. But we, Harry, we have to live for us, not them." Harry didn't reply. He left the room and shut the door with a soft but final click. In that moment, Meghan saw Harry hadn't just lost titles, but a piece of his soul tied to his family, his mother's memory, the monarchy he'd hoped to reform. She sank onto the sofa, hands covering her face, feeling for the first time in months a quiet fear. Could they survive this without breaking? In London, the decree spread like wildfire. BBC and Sky News interrupted broadcasts while online headlines screamed, "Harry stripped of titles, royal strike," and "Charles and William end Sussex reign." From London to Manchester, Britons split. Some praised the monarchy for defending tradition. Others condemned Charles for cruelty to his son. On Twitter, Shatters royal betrayal battled Yasha save Harry, turning the saga into a digital war zone. At Clarence House, William read the statement on his phone, his eyes blank. He avoided public appearances, ignored the press. A close source revealed that after the decree, he sat alone in the library, staring at a 90s family photo, him, Harry, and Diana together. No one knew his thoughts, but a staffer noted his eyes were red as he left. Late afternoon in Santa Barbara, a golden sunset bathed the beach waves lapping at fine sand. Harry walked alone, barefoot, clutching his mother's Victoria Cross wrapped in worn velvet. He sat on a large rock, fingers tracing the metal as if it were his last link to Diana, the woman who taught him compassion, courage, and the cost of authenticity. The waves, steady and relentless, whispered of a monarchy once his home, Buckingham's grand halls, Balmoral's hunts, his mother's hugs, in Kensington's cozy flat. Now that monarchy had cast him out, thrusting him into a world where he was no longer Prince Harry. Just Harry, a name stripped bare without crest or honor. He didn't cry, but his red eyes mirrored the sunset's sorrow. He recalled Diana's words to a scared boy under royal pressure. "You don't need a crown to be good, Harry. Just live true to your heart." Those words were his only light in the darkness enveloping him. In London, William entered a BBC studio for a live national address. In a deep blue suit, he radiated a prince's authority, but his eyes beneath practiced confidence betrayed deep pain. At the microphone under blazing lights, he spoke with steady power. "The monarchy must protect its integrity and duty. When a member uses titles without honoring obligations, we must act to safeguard the crown." His words were a clear vow, no compromise for the monarchy's honor. But his eyes flickered with unhidden pain, the pain of losing the brother who was once his closest ally, the only one who understood the crown's weight. William's speech aired worldwide, from London to New York, Sydney to Tokyo. In Britain, loyalists applauded, but Harry's supporters decried it as hypocrisy. Social media exploded. "William did right for the monarchy" clashed with "he's a hypocrite." Cornering his brother, William ignored it all. Back at Clarence House, he locked himself in his room, seeing no one. In California, Meghan prepared a speech for a global human rights forum hosted online from Los Angeles. She chose to speak not for Harry, but for those silenced by powerful names and institutions. In Montecito's study under soft lighting, she wrote with care and passion. Her speech, yet to be delivered, was tipped to be a media bombshell. A leaked excerpt to Vanity Fair rang like a war cry. "No one defines you by a title. A person's true worth lies in their actions, not their name." Meghan wrote late into the night, the house silent. Through the window, she saw Harry's silhouette in the yard, silvered by moonlight. She knew he was battling himself and that his wounds wouldn't heal easily. But she also knew they had to press on, not to prove the monarchy wrong, but to prove to themselves they could endure. That night, Harry returned, entering the study and opening his old leather journal. Under the desk lamp's faint glow, he wrote, his hand steady with resolve. "Mum said, the crown means nothing if it costs you yourself. Maybe now I understand." Those words, a silent oath, marked a turning point. Harry didn't know what lay ahead, whether the world would forgive or judge him. But in that moment under California's moonlight, he found a flicker of peace, not in victory, but in rediscovering himself even among the fragments of his past.